We continue our coverage of today's historic verdict against former President Donald Trump, who was found guilty on all 34 felony counts of falsifying business records tied to a hush money payment to a porn actress before the 2016 election. We've looked at the legal aspects of the verdict, but what about the political fallout? For that, we welcome Chuck Coughlin, President and CEO of High Ground Consulting. Chuck, always a pleasure. Good to have you here. Holy smokes, what a day. Political ramifications of all this.
Well, we all know it's going to be a close election, right? I mean, that's true. And so the ramifications of this on that very small portion of the electorate that's out there that doesn't have a committed position on this race yet is interesting. I mean, from a professional background, you know, the old line is all publicity is good unless it's followed by convicted or indicted. Well, you got 34 convictions today. That's not great.
Does it ramp up the anger and the division in politics? Does it add fuel?
Undoubtedly. I mean, it'll be a Trump strategy to milk this in what they call like hardcore Republican precincts. You'd want to identify non-traditional voters that have not been participating historically in the process and make them believe, as he will articulate, that this is all a ruse, it's all a setup, it's all part of the game, and they've set it up against me, and you need to help me stop this. I'm a martyr.
And he's already said after the verdict, he said he's trying to link this to the Biden administration.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, does that message hit, and will that message start to fade over time?
I don't think he's going to let it. I like you just said in a second ago, the sentencing is going to be 4 days before the Republican National Convention. Yes. So he's going to ride this. I mean, he's going to use this throughout the cycle to try and drive that base voter turnout and to turn out people who are traditionally non-affiliated voters who buy into this everything's corrupt, everything's bad narrative, which, you know, has helped him substantially.
So that's how he responds. I mean, the judge is biased, the jury is biased, the prosecution's biased, everyone's biased against me. They're all against me. Okay, we get that. But the Republican Party in general, how does the party respond?
Well, I mean, I just saw a post from Karen Taylor, fully on the Trump side, fully engaged in parroting his narrative. And so that is today's Republican Party. Today's Republican Party is Donald Trump's Republican Party. It's a gang it's the MAGA gang, and they're here and they occupy that power of space. I wouldn't expect any deterioration from the GOP base at this point. I would expect them to follow exactly what Trump's comments were today.
So their presumptive candidate is a convicted felon. Let's raise the banner high.
Yeah, it's all set up against me. I'm a martyr. This is all the Democrats and big government and the deep state trying to come after your guy.
How do Democrats deal with this?
You know, that's a big question. That's an interesting question. You know, there almost so much information here that the Democrats can use. You know, I think what we will end up seeing is a lot of this. We will see a lot of this in the paid narrative of the Biden campaign. But I'm not sure that's going to be really helpful to them. I mean, if I were them, what I would be doing is talking about a better America. I would be talking about a better promise for America, that our economy is going strong, our country is great, our educational system is second to none in the world. You know, I would hit all of the highlights of what's great about America.
But I mean, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how'd you like the play? I mean, you're running against a convicted felon.
And we all know it.
Yeah. So in other words, don't pile on.
Yeah, I think that's going to be part of the media narrative. It's going to be part of his narrative. It's going to be part, I mean, it can be like an intro and maybe a bit of an exit, but it can't be the body of the message.
Yeah.
If I want to be a successful Democratic campaign, I got to give those, remember who we're talking about here.
Right.
We're talking about the very small portion of the electorate that is yet to decide how they're going to vote on this. And so I want to talk to them. I want to talk to them about their life, about what they want, and how I can help them get that.
We talking independence here?
Yeah, we're talking about independents. We're talking about younger voters. We're talking about people who aren't super high efficacy voters. Not me and you, not most of your listeners,
right,
people who are watching this show. It's going to be low propensity voters who typically turn out in a presidential election. Remember that a presidential election typically gets about a 15-point bump in turnout over a midterm election, a gubernatorial election, largely because younger voters turn out and surround those of us who always turn out.
I should mention the Biden campaign, like minutes after the verdict, the campaign and released a statement. Convicted felon or not, Trump will be the Republican nominee for president.
Yeah.
That's as far as you go on something like that?
Well, I think at this juncture, I would tread it pretty carefully right now because you got a lot of time. You got a lot of time to figure out how this rolls out. The news media cycle, like we're sitting in right now, is going to be talking about this. And they're going to be running this narrative for some time without his help. So it's probably good for a presidential campaign to sit back and watch how this narrative plays out and then figure out how to curate it to your advantage.
And we should talk, CNN had their poll of polls released actually today, and Biden and Trump were even up. But 70% of registered voters in this one said nothing will change their vote. This was before the verdict. Yeah,
right,
but that's basically is what you're saying. Nothing will change my vote.
Yeah, most of the country's locked in on this. I mean, that's why we see in poll after poll right now that it's one way or the other. It's 1 or 2 points, one way or the other, depending on, the old adage, the only poll that counts is the one on election day.
Right.
And you got to play to that point in the cycle. You got to play the long game here to figure out how you're going to frame this issue all the way through the cycle.
What about Arizona politics? We'll start with the U.S. Senate race. Does this help or hurt Kari Lake?
I would say it has an opportunity, again, to talk about those non-traditional voters. So Arizona is a growth state. We have a lot of new residents moving in here all the time. They are typically not voters. They're typically not high efficacy voters. And so in a growth state, what you'd want to be able to think about is getting to those voters who have not been part of the Arizona political experience to date, get new registrants, talk about people who don't have a long history of voting, and say, we have to defend him. He's a martyr. He's the sacrificial lamb. He's here for you. That narrative that we hear from Trump all the time. And if I'm them, that's what I do. I'd play that narrative in what you call these heavily Republican precincts, heavily Republican counties, where you can drive up a number.
And the Gallego campaign says and does what?
Man, if I'm Rubin's campaign, I'm doing the same thing I'm doing right now. I'm talking about my bootstraps to where I am today story, my service to my country. I talk about, what you can do better for Arizona, what I can do and what I will do for the betterment of all Arizonans.
Is this something that, if for both sides, for Republicans and Democrats running for office, you don't necessarily need to mention it because it's like a low-grade fever. It's always there.
It's like the color of the paint in the room, right?
Yes.
It's there, and it's going to be there, and you can play with it depending on what the audience is doing, what day, what you're going to be talking about. I mean, you could end a speech pretty easily by saying, look, who do you want as a leader? Do you want a leader who wants to do X, Y, and Z, or somebody who's got 34 felony counts? I mean, Walter Payton has a better record. He's number 34.
He's number 35.
Yeah, and so, I think there's a lot of jokes you could make about it. There's a lot of things you could talk about, but I don't know that I dwell on it as part of my hardcore part of my narrative.
And state legislative races, does it even factor at all in something that local?
Oh, maybe a bit, but again, it's on the margins. Everybody's running their own campaigns here. Everybody's running in their own district makeup. There's only 4 or 5 swing seats in the entire state that will be experiencing a competitive general election. That will be determined by the overall turnout in the cycle. I mean, the other thing, I got a billboard from a friend the other day going, most Americans would agree we'd vote to change everybody for president. We want none of these people. So that's another question is, what does this do in the overall turnout? I mean, Trump's going to want to use it to turn it up. Biden's going to want to make it more aspirational. What does this do to the overall turnout? You and I have discussed this before. Is this an opportunity where, people go, none of the above.
I can't take it anymore.
I'm going to vote for the abortion rights initiative, and I'll vote for some of these other people on the ballot, but I'm done here.
Yeah, and other things on the ballot could be affected. Last question, got about a minute or so left here. We're talking, how's this going to, We don't know. We've never been here, Chuck. This is a this is the presumptive presidential candidate as a convicted felon.
Bust out the popcorn, Ted.
Yes.
It's the first ring of the circle today.
But is it something?
It grows more in intensity.
Is it? Oh, yes. But is it something that history books will? Is it something that we will look back on, or is it such? Is he such an anomaly? Is this such an anomaly that it's a speed bump and we'll move on?
You know, you have people that are better at history than me. I fancy myself, you know, you got Andrew Jackson and the impeachments there. You got all the stuff during Reconstruction, all of those very intense periods in our history where these types of things happen. I sort of put it in that, but you know, the steroids we're on today with social media, the 24-hour or the 10-second media cycles we're in now. You know, it is amazing to see how this will play out. But I want to keep everybody thinking about who's this really going to play with, and how's it going to play with the cheap seats? Yeah.
Chuck Coughlin, High Ground, great insight. Good to have you here as always. Thank you, sir.
Ted.